Dr. Colleen Palmer, Superintendent of Weston Public Schools, and Dr. Ken Craw, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. As Deb mentioned earlier today, we've been working with Weston for the past 3 years, and we are so excited that they're here because they have a lot of great insight into creating innovative and transformative assessments that go beyond measuring just content knowledge, but 21st century capacities students need in order to be competitive in the global economy, not only today, but in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So here is Dr. Colleen.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I would like to take you up on that invitation to go to Finland. So just give me your address and you can come visit us in Weston. No, but I think I'm very grateful to Teachers College, Community of Practice. I have learned so much today, and we're involved in this work, but it's a never-ending journey and it's an incomplete process. So thank you to everyone for sharing all that you've done. I'm going to provide a narrative of Weston's journey, and Ken Craw will finish the second half of the presentation. And I want to talk about AIM Initiative. The acronym in Weston is translated to mean Academic Innovation and Measurement. Now, some of you may have had a brochure earlier that said All in Momentum. Did anyone see that? You did, you did. And there's a funny story about that. Along the way, we had a celebration dinner, and we were so impressed how successful the initiative was. For the dinner, we just renamed the acronym All in Momentum because it had such momentum in our district. And TC picked up on that. We said, no, we still really like Academic Innovation and Measurement. But the unofficial is All in Momentum. When we think about the 21st century skills, and to kind of step back, Weston is a high-performing district, and we're a smaller district than Westport and Scarsdale. We only have about 2,400 students, and it is a very special place in that we have 4 schools on one road, School Road. And so we have a K through 2 school, 3 through 5, 6 to 8 in our high school. And having everyone on the same campus also affords lots of opportunity for sharing ideas, flexibility, and it's a real asset of being a smaller district. However, it also means that we probably have few layers of support built in as a smaller district, and we've had to be creative in how we manage our resources to move this initiative forward. You can look at all the literature about 21st century skills, and I think you're going to see a real commonality between all of the initiatives. And these are the big buckets of 21st century skills. And when we started looking at this, we said, what are the ones that we are going to use as our lens, our focus, our area that we are going to actually measure, because we're talking about innovation and measurement. And so we reduced the focus of this down to critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, communication, and a global perspective. And these are the kinds of 21st century skills that we expect every single student in Weston Public Schools to be able to demonstrate these skills. Not only that, we also approached this and said we as the adults in our community need to demonstrate these skills. So what does collaboration look like for adults starting a new initiative? And how should we communicate in a way that makes sense as well? To begin this initiative, and if I go back to the beginning of the story, I am starting my 3rd year as superintendent in Weston. The AIM initiative actually started a year before I was on board as superintendent, and it was one of the reasons I was attracted to come to Weston, to be immersed in this work of 21st century skills. The community had begun conversations to talk about what is it that we want to focus on. If you look at our standardized test scores, they're all excellent, all the standard measures. And I just want to acknowledge Staples High School and Weston High School both received Blue Ribbon Awards this year, and if the U.S. government opens up again, we can get those awards. But they're on hold. So I mean, all the measures that a community would look at, we were in line. And if you know Weston, you don't come to Weston for the shopping. because in the center of town, those of you who know Connecticut, I saw the smiles out there, there really are about 8 little stores in a cluster in the center of the town, and it's very rural, very suburban, and the schools are the center of the town. So beginning of why do we need to do this? How do you create a sense of urgency in a school district that's already doing well? Do no harm. Avoid risk. Do not mess with those test scores. Whatever you do, you can go do that 21st century thing, but don't you dare lose anything else. And our kids better get into the top colleges, but have a good time with that. So we understand it's the same kind of community in which we were looking at. And how did we do this? And it was really all in. When it was all in momentum, we really had to involve all of our stakeholders in this endeavor. And sometimes things happen and we're lucky. We change kind of lemons into lemonade. So halfway through the first year of my superintendency in Weston, and I said to you the previous superintendent, Jerry Belair, had actually started AIM. The assistant superintendent, outstanding, Tom Scarice, was working with me, and he goes, oh, I think I'm going to be superintendent in the middle of the year. So he left in the middle of my first year. There are 2 people at central office who carried the educational leadership agenda, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. And there I was, 6-7 months into the new job, major initiative, and the key person is obviously going to a wonderful career opportunity. It was at that point that I feel so fortunate, because in our district we have a wonderful cadre of curriculum instruction leaders, and these are teachers who have some release time, either part or all of the day, to facilitate teaching and learning in their various curriculum area. And I remember going to a meeting and saying, okay, this is a challenge. What do you think? What do you think we can do? And I kind of put out to those leaders, I said, I need help. We're not hiring an assistant superintendent, but even if we start the search now, the person would be coming on by May, June, doesn't make sense. What are we going to do? And I said, we have this much left of the salary of the assistant superintendent for the year. How should we spend it? How can I help you? How can I support you? And those teacher leaders, I give all the credit, really rolled up their sleeves and helped develop a plan with me about how to carry out that year. Partnerships with our teachers. Weston Board of Education funded $50,000 towards a multi-year initiative to jumpstart AIM. This was not enough, and beyond what the Board of Education, our Education Foundation pledged $50,000, and you talk about support of PTOs. Our PTOs also baked cupcakes for $40,000. They were great cupcakes, very good. So this is an issue. How do you find the resources? What I will say to you is what we've done is we've changed the focus, and AIM and our core mission work is non-negotiable. And so when we've gone to develop our budgets, we don't talk about this as something that can be cut. This year, our budget is a negative budget. We're one of 2 districts in Connecticut. We never once took any resources from AIM. Teachers College was instrumental in working with us as outside critical friends to come in, and sometimes we had 4 to 5 people from TC come in to work with our teachers. Our teachers worked in groups, developing and designing lessons and units of AIM study. So AIM study, and Ken will tell us more about that, but really you're measuring not just the content, but you're measuring the 21st century skills. And it's culminating at the end of the year with a Cornerstone assessment for the grade level. That is a heavy lift when you're asking teachers to do things differently and it's out of their comfort zone. I will say that the culture, culture trumps everything in a school district. The culture was able to be shifted to the point that in the middle of this, it was a 5-year plan, and we are now in the 4th year. We have accelerated to complete AIM in every classroom by the end of this year, because it got to the point that the AIM lessons were so compelling, so engaging. You talk about that level of cognitive engagement. The kids were having a better time at school, and the teachers were loving the work at a higher level. They're passionate about what they're doing and succeeding. That now kids are going home saying, well, I had an AIM lesson. And if you're not doing it in every classroom, then what do some of the parents say? I want the AIM lesson. So it actually became and push from inside our community, from inside our school district and our parents to say, please accelerate this. So this year, every single classroom will be immersed in AIM. And again, just going back to the 5 areas of focus for this initiative, these are the 21st century skills that we look at. And again, not just for our students, but for our own work. Do we create a culture that allows our adults to be creative? What does that look like? How do we manage risk-taking? How do we support those pioneers who are able to go out and explore? And with that, I am going to let Ken take us forward because he's going to go into our AIM matrix. Thank you.
Okay, so going back to the beginning of the AIM initiative, I was at the time a middle school principal, and so this is now my 6th year in the district. So I saw how the initiative started to unfold, and then I inherited it as the assistant superintendent. And going back to the original goals that we talked about with the community, one was really looking to go beyond what the skills and outcomes were that were tested with our local assessments, with the Connecticut Mastery Tests and the Connecticut Achievement Tests, to really see if we could go beyond, embed all these skills in every classroom throughout the district, but also be able to measure progress. So skills that are very challenging to see whether or not students are showing growth in, and some of those soft skills as well as the hard skills. And we started out with, as a district, before we even brought Teachers College into the district, with the 4 C's. And Teachers College, with their research and encouragement, helped us really think about adding the global column, the global awareness. And it looks very similar to the other districts. But one of the things early on, as we were talking with teachers, and they were very excited about this opportunity to go beyond what we currently had in place in Connecticut with our standards, really trying to push beyond those and see if we could be innovative and give them the opportunity to go forward. What would this look like in a 1st grade classroom versus an 11th grade classroom? That was one of the questions that really came up early on. And we didn't have the answer. We had to get into the work, and that work started to unfold with a group of volunteer teachers. And that was one of the best lessons from our work, was that if you had teachers who were excited and willing to give of their time, we provide them with time, but they would go even beyond what we provided with common meeting time to really explore and research. And so after we started with our initial pilot group of teachers and started to get down into the grade levels, this past year we started to get into 1st grade. And so there was a lot of excitement, but also apprehension at first. And they figured out that, we really wanted to improve one of our units. And it was a science unit on force and motion. And they said, well, there are 2 outcomes on this matrix, research and design and reflecting. Reflecting is under the communication category, and research and design is under the creative thinking category. And so through that lens, they began to see how they could make improvements. And what I'd like to do is allow them, in their own words, to share with you what their experiences were like. And also you'll see and hear students in action as well. And it'll just give you a little bit of sense of the process. Oh, thank you, Eric. It's the one that says 1st grade on it here.
That's right there.
The next one. That one. You hear that?
We've heard a lot about AIM in higher grade. How is it going to kind of trickle down to 1st grade? Are the expectations that we're going to be looking to bring these kids to going to be realistic? Is it going to look like this big leap? AIM was a way for us as teachers to kind of come together, use a backwards design to see exactly where we wanted to get our kids, and then, focus in on, we're all working towards these 21st century skills, what really let us hone in on to and do them well?
We chose creative thinking and effective communication. And under that, in creative thinking, we basically had the children doing a lot of research and design in the science unit. And for effective communication, they were working on reflecting.
We thought science would be a really great way to start to experience AIM since it lent itself so well to a couple of the 21st century skills on the matrix.
We had the children design a roller coaster on a piece of paper, and we had loops and we had straights, and we said, design a roller coaster. You think that would be a great roller coaster? After they pasted it on the paper, their design of a roller coaster, there's actually a computer program that we went on to, and it's based off of the paper. We had copied off of that, and we put their design onto the computer, and there's a marble that goes, and either works or not. So they're able to actually see it on the computer, whether it worked. Then they need to reflect if it worked, what worked well, if it didn't work, what didn't work well, and that was the pre-assessment.
They learned about motion, different types of motion. They learned about forces, that there has to be a push and a pull. They have done some things with air rockets, where they have straw, and it's just air-powered and flies across the roof. Ramps and rollers, where they have done several things with rolling marbles down different ramps. They had different challenges with foam, pipe, where they got to go through hills and loops, where they were able to construct things that let the marble end up in a little cup by different challenges using the wooden ramps. And then they did some constructing of tops and spinning and all the challenges that encompasses. There was definite success. If either the marble ended where it was supposed to end up, or it didn't. Either the top spun, or the rocket flew, or it didn't. So they learned that they could make adjustments, and those adjustments would affect their success.
But we realized at the beginning of it, before we started the unit, that they didn't have that engineering vocabulary. So that was more of the role of the teacher to be implementing in this unit, was to give the children the language to be able to effectively reflect on what was going on with their design.
One of the most important things, obviously, was having the children reflect on what they were doing as far as designing and creating and changing. That helped me know that they were grasping the material. And even if a child just wasn't able to get it down on paper in writing, they were still able to express it verbally.
You present them with a challenge, and they kind of took it to the next level. They were coming up with the questions of, well, this didn't work. What do I need to do in order to change it? Okay, I changed it. Why did it work better? Why did it not?
They understood that they were asking each other questions at a higher level, and that their thinking was helping them be successful. And they got very into that, which was a tribute to the teachers, because they were really modeling that and the value of that to the students. We had 8 teachers who were able to come together and focus their thinking on the thinking we wanted to bring out in the students. We don't have that. We don't have opportunities for that very often, especially in a first grade science unit.
Every lesson, we made sure to flesh out as much as possible to get at, what the learning goals really were, and provide, better questioning techniques that were built in for the teachers, better written responses in the notebooks, because we were asking better questions in the notebooks.
Creating the assessments together and talking about it before was definitely very helpful and beneficial to know what to do when we were actually in the unit. And we revisited it many times during team meetings or common planning time to kind of go over it together and see how it would go and make any necessary changes, reflect on it. So it was really helpful.
The student work that we were getting back is improved, maybe not from every kid, but it's definitely, I think, pushed the thinking of the students more.
They had been talking about, different pieces of their experiment at recess, and they were building upon that and talking about it at lunch. And, oh my goodness, we're doing this in the lab today. I just think it gave them, and it could be because it was the science thing unit, but I just felt like they were so driven through the entire thing, and they were really in charge of their learning.
But I think sometimes if you just give them that opportunity, they are able to do a lot more than you think that they could do on a first grade level.
The more you put into the AIM unit, you're going to start seeing their thinking change throughout their entire day, not just in that isolated unit.
I think the capacity is about what will I change in my ramp, what will I change in my top, and really transfer to any problem that they have to solve. What do I know, what do I observe is happening? If I change this, what will I think will happen? And those are things that transfer all the way along.
To me, the AIM matrix document is really, it's an outline for good teaching. It's a document that everyone can use at any level in any subject.
Okay. I'll let you do that. So one of the benefits of being in a small district like Weston is all 8 teachers in grade 1 were able to be at the table from the beginning of that process. And while 8 teachers all have 8 different ways of approaching instruction, they were able to come together and collaborate to produce this unit. It was a process where we had Teachers College and our curriculum instructional leaders helping along the way to provide professional development. And if I just move along here, we tried to establish a structure so that whether you're in first grade or in high school science, we had a similar process. And one of the big ahas for us in using a backwards design approach and developing an AIM unit was that while our teachers had been involved in the 5-year renewal cycle for curriculum, many of them had different understandings of how to write curriculum and how to plan their units. So starting with that end in mind, AIM gave us an opportunity to go back and think about, you see here stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 of UBD are embedded in here, but in identifying content and skills, we identify in the AIM unit 1 or 2 outcomes that are very important for that unit. And they design that summative assessment and the rubric. And we found that with our teachers, not all teachers were developing their rubrics ahead of the assessments, ahead of the learning, sharing that with students. So it gave us a chance to go back to best practices with our teachers and talk about some of their attitudes and beliefs about assessment. We did also introduce the idea of pre-assessing more than just in pockets throughout the district. And those pre-assessments, we've had them in relation to content, but the pre-assessments we're now looking at predominantly those 1 or 2 AIM outcomes to see where students were initially to inform practice. And our teachers, through this process, will collaboratively score the summative PDA at the end of the unit. And that's a time-consuming process. So one of the things we were fortunate to have built into the district was the common planning time during the day and in the afternoons periodically throughout the month. A little more challenging at the high school, but certainly something that we value. This process hasn't, had just a perfect pathway. We've had our bumps in the road. It's gotten messy from time to time, and that's good. We want it to be authentic. We want our teachers to own it. We want them to give us feedback, and they do. One of the things that we've done is had celebrations for our teachers for volunteering. We've had AIM dinners. We've brought the community together, recognized their contribution along the way as well, because without everyone, we wouldn't be able to sustain the work. I think for me, one of the groups that I work with are the cadre of curriculum leaders, and they have owned this. They meet regularly with the administrative team. They also meet on their own as well to plan for AIM. So I feel as if while at central office we're working to support the system, they're out there helping more teachers become leaders in this process. And so we're just continuing to build capacity. And while we've finished our formal process with Teachers College, we had a 3-year arrangement, we're going to continue to still have contact with them and work with them. But our teachers now have the capacity to do this work at the grade level with their curriculum instructional leaders. And we're very confident that within the district, we own this. It's our work. And I don't know if I have time here for this second clip. Allison, how are we doing? Okay. Okay.
I don't know if we have time.
Yeah.
Maybe keep time for questions.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back then.
Which one?
Let's go back to the PowerPoint then.
Okay.
So there are other aspects of our system we began to align with our 21st Century Learning Initiative. We looked at the question as we got into our first year of AIM, what does exemplary teaching and learning look like in Weston. And this was well before Connecticut was subject to the regulations that were coming from the state regarding teacher evaluation. So our committee, our professional growth committee, got together and determined what are the things that are best practices in education. We have 4 domains as part of our set of standards and rubrics. But we embedded those 4 C's and the G into the standards. And it obviously includes student-centered instruction, performance-based assessment, releasing responsibility. All of that is in here, and our teachers were the ones who had their fingerprints all over it. And I feel that in our role, one of the things we needed to do as the mandates came to us last year regarding teacher evaluation was preserve this work so we could go on with it. And we were able to get a waiver from the state of Connecticut to allow us to implement the teacher evaluation plan that we currently had in place prior to the changes that came down the pipe. And so our teachers right now are focused on this work in 21st century learning. And it dovetails nicely with other initiatives that we have going, like Westport, the instructional approaches with math in focus, with workshop, in our literacy program. We have initiatives related to blended learning that tie in nicely. We're updating our progress reports and infusing a... So we have really used AIM as the umbrella for our district to increase engagement in the classroom, but then also guide our vision in other areas as we continue to grow. So I just feel very fortunate with the teachers that we have, that they are committed to this work, and they have been really the best, strongest advocates for AIM along the way. Along with our leadership group, our principals learn right alongside our teachers, and that's been critical to have them also leading some of this work. One of the things we haven't really talked about with our implementation of AIM so far is the concept of a Cornerstone assessment. And while all of our teachers by the end of this year are looking to have developed at least 3 AIM units for full year courses, we also have in grades 2, 5, 8, and 11 what's called a Cornerstone assessment. It's a cross-disciplinary, engaging, performance-based assessment that students take, and it gives us a sense of where they are. It really is designed to inform teaching, so the teachers see where students are, how they progressed, and in the next year, we try to adjust and make some changes. It's gone extremely well at the elementary level. At the secondary level, we're still working through how do we make it as authentic as possible, and that's going to be the subject of some of our work going forward. For those of you who maybe are thinking about your own 21st century learning initiative, I wish we had this framework from Ed Leader 21, which evolved out of the Partnership for 21st Century Skills. Those initial steps of adopting your vision and getting that consensus in the community and with the people, with the teachers in the district, that is so critical. And I feel very fortunate in my role that a lot of that was done early on, and we had a lot of buy-in. So it is definitely time well spent before moving on to some of the higher levels with building the capacity and innovating. And it's really a process that needs to build. And then finally, I think for whether you're an administrator, teacher, anyone in the district, you can feel proud of having the autonomy, the empowerment to do this work. And I think that's why teachers love being in Weston, is because they have that latitude. And I know that in my role, this is something I want to continue to cultivate as we work with them. So with that, we're hoping that this continues to grow for our district. And if you have any questions, Holly and I would be happy to answer them.
I want to give her the mic. much. I was really interested in hearing how in some ways you're doing similar things to what we're doing, so that's great to know. We're all on the right track. But I'm really interested in your Cornerstone assessments. That's something we'd like to move toward. And if you could talk a little bit more about them, I'd really appreciate that.
Sure,
That?
sure. So our teachers will look to see what on the matrix they'd like to focus on with a performance-based assessment. It's cross-disciplinary. We'll pull a team at the secondary level. Let's just take that as an example where we have various disciplines represented. They will design the task, and generally they have been 2-hour in-school assessments, and it may be an engaging question that they have a variety of resources afforded to them that within that time they would read, they would look at, and review, and they would pull all that together to address certain questions. And leading up to that, we've also tried doing some collaborative work or research even before that assessment takes place. And so once the assessment is given to the students, we let them know what's the purpose, what's the rationale, how will this help them, that it would be engaging, give a sense of what problem-solving skills they have, and you might be asked to do this in your education institution to move forward. We sit down and then we score those collaboratively. And we look at where the students are, we collect all that, and Teachers College has taken that data for us and looked at the reliability of our scoring process. And we have found that it has been an effective approach so that what claims we're able to make about student performance to inform instruction are ones we can feel good about. And so that has been very helpful to us through this process.
Do all the students in that grade level take that same assessment?
Yes.
And you must change the schedule somehow so that there's a 2-hour block available for them to sit and do that?
Right. And that process has worked very well at the elementary level. We're finding at the secondary level it needs to become more authentic. That 2-hour block where we were looking to have a little more consistency so we could make some claims to inform instruction has become a little more limiting than we would like. So we're still looking to see how that's going to evolve this year.
I just want to add one other thing too. We've allowed teachers, as this has been rolled out, to determine which area of the matrix they feel is the more natural fit for the unit that they are teaching. And so what we did at the end of last year is we took all of that data and mapped it out grade by grade on the matrix to make sure, are we touching all the areas of the matrix? And there are some areas teachers are more comfortable teaching and assessing. Critical thinking, we love critical thinking. So you'll see a clustering around that part of the matrix, and then it also identifies for us what are the areas of professional development that maybe our teachers need to feel more comfortable. And as we take that high-level look, then we take the step back and say, how do we make sure there's a guaranteed and assured, a quality educational experience for all parts of the matrix as a child moves through the system. So we are now going to that next level.
If I could ask one more question. Our board keeps asking us, and I think it is a good question, how do you know year over year that we are improving as a school system? I'm wondering if using those Cornerstone assessments has helped you to see not just individual student progress, but are you able to see that year by year the Western school system is improving? Or does it form that, or does it do that function for you?
But there's still, when you look at the Cornerstones, it's one snapshot in time. So it can't be the only way to look at the initiative. We have to look at both qualitative and quantitative, and look at how it unfolds. We have really started that process of providing feedback to the community. We have a long way to go with that still. At this point, in this time between the old accountability system with SBAC coming on board, we would like to see that grow so it takes center stage.
but we hope they will inform us on individual student performance and the performance of the district. And that's, I know we talked to Ruth before she had to go, that we're going to sit with her and then debrief on the data that they've done, that they've analyzed on the Cornerstone assessments.
I know you were talking about how you mapped out the different parts of the matrix vertically. Do you find that there's a little bit more discomfort in the globalization as you move down to the younger grades? Are they a little less comfortable globalizing their curriculum?
Well, naturally, I think teachers gravitate towards the first two columns. Critical thinking, they have had quite a bit of experience with, and it really depends on the unit. They generally identify units that they really want to kick up a notch and improve. So there are some that we haven't really used as much as others, but the global piece, we actually were seeing it quite a bit. We had a social studies unit in 7th grade where we were looking at population increases across the world and looking at where in Weston we had a declining population and trying to make connections there. So, I would say that it was a really good move to put the global on the matrix. It gave teachers the license to do that well.
And just a second follow-up, do you have a way that you're sharing your results that us neighbors might be able to peek in?
You know what, come visit us, we'll set up a day in Weston. What this has done is it's had a ripple impact on all of our systems. So it's had an impact on PD. We are now revising our student progress reports because if we're not reporting out the progress of our students on the 21st century skills, and that's where you get the board conversation. You're spending all these resources, you're doing all this, it sounds great, but you were great before. So how do we get our arms around this? We want to have that mechanism so when the teachers, especially at the elementary level, sit down face to face, they say, your child's at this level, but you know what, in terms of communication, collaboration, these are the strengths and these are the areas of growth. I think when the parents begin to get that level of granularity of feedback, and we're just on the cusp, we're designing a whole new system of reports, but that's what AIM has done, it's gone to the core of our work, and if you mess with how teaching and learning happens, then all of those ancillary systems around that are impacted. But we get the same questions. We've spent a lot of resources, we've gone to the Education Foundation, you've gone to the PTOs, the foundation has said, okay, Colleen, we'd like a final report for the investment we've made in you at the end of October. So that will be our charge to make sure there's been value added. But I think that's a challenge for all of us. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Colleen. It's, of course, assessment is always what everyone really wants to understand, right? And I think that having a gathering together again to understand how these assessments have informed everything, and it would be very valuable. So thank you for your generosity there on that.